With a microphone.
Yes.
Is this close enough?
You don't have to be like, you don't like it's like, hello.
For those who don't know me, I'm Adam Herbert. I'm the CEO of Go Live Data. I'm a leader in the B2B space, really trying to put good content out to the market, help businesses grow from startup phase all the way to big corporate phases. I've scaled businesses, not just in the UK, but internationally. And I'm here to try and give you a bit of advice on what you can do next.
I'm David. I am the Chief Operating Officer for the Ideas Group and their Head of Community.
And what are you doing here today?
Well, hopefully having an interesting conversation around lead generation, all things marketing, and I am here primarily to try and help other businesses to do that 1% better every day, and you can achieve wonderful, amazing things.
The world of 1%, I talk about that a lot, actually. If you can get 1% better in every single bit you do, before you know it, you're 100% better than you were.
And there's a self-reflection piece in that, right? So like, that's not to say that you never make mistakes and you don't go backwards.
First phase is acceptance.
Yes. It's not an AA meeting.
No, but it's the same for every bit of life, right? Because
absolutely. If
you're driven by ego and you're full of yourself and you think you're amazing, there's no room for improvement.
No, and I, we've talked about this, and I'm going to say it again. That initial time you ever start a business, if you don't recognise there's a huge bit of your ego involved in that, you're not in a great place, because there is. And I would challenge anyone who's ever started a business to come here and say there was no ego at all in starting the company.
There's always an ego. There has to be an ego. It's impossible for there not to be an ego. So your mission is different to your ego.
Yeah.
So what's my mission? To make better conversations through better marketing and through better communication. That's my mission. But I've got to be egotistical enough to go, I can solve that problem.
Yeah, and actually to go out and do it, 'cause it's scary. And so, we talk about a lot how entrepreneurship is about risk-taking, and it's about it, but it's scary. It's scary. I've been there waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning wondering whether I'm going to be fit to pay the staff. And, it is a scary place to be. It's not for everyone.
No.
And when you kind of do get there and you take the red pill, there is nothing quite like it.
No.
Nothing I found that really kind of resonates in that feeling. And, I've got children, you've got children, and the business is part of you. It is like having another child. And just like you, when you hand over your child to nursery and the tears come, I mean, I've had as many tears in my business as I probably have with anything else over the years. It's a real challenge. It's really, really hard. And when you then layer all the other pressures, so we talked about this before, right? Family life and all the things that come with that. I definitely, my first, unfortunately I'm divorced, and that happened about 4 years ago. And whilst starting the business, my first business, wasn't the only factor in it, I can definitely see how it put strain on the relationship, and the 20 hours a day, the stress of not making as much money as you wanted to, and not understand, and having all the other responsibilities. Like it is a recipe for burnout if you don't deal with it and get to the point in the business where you start to delegate and you start to understand what your core focus is, and that core focus is always others. It's not yourself, and that's the way you remove ego, is to understand that what you do, whether it be at home, whether it be within your business, whether it be with friends or wherever else once it's about other people and supporting other people, I think it's easier to remove the ego.
It's really easy. And just playing on Ideas Fest for a second,
Go
where we've worked primarily in our first campaigns, actually being in that field, and we had a tent and a sofa and whatever it will be, the amount of conversations I was having with small, medium, large, ginormous organisations, and actually the pain points were all the same. I think if you go back in history a little bit, we met, 6-7 months ago. We'd been in and around the Ideas, Entrepreneur of the Year Awards, Startup Awards, which we won once upon a time before I knew you. That was a great moment. I didn't actually go that night because I was so ill, but the team went and got the award and came back with it. I was gobsmacked still to this day. So being part of that, and then reaching out to Francesca, getting to meet yourself, and now becoming part of that network and really championing entrepreneurship across the UK has been huge for us. So far, it seems to be going quite well.
It's been a journey, hasn't it? And I think that really is what we find when we start working with someone who's won the startup award, and that beginning of anyone's journey is always really frenetic. You're learning as you go. You're building the track as the train is hurtling down it, and then you get to this period where you've got some clients. You've started to kind of figure out where you sit in your own space, and then you're looking to grow, and that's a whole different challenge. And I think that's where it becomes really interesting. Oftentimes the tools and the techniques that you use to start the business aren't the ones that are going to sustain or grow you. And so there's this evolution piece.
Yes. Yes, and I can definitely attest to that. So going from startup to, I always think there's a bit in the middle because people talk about startup then growth phase.
Yeah.
There's startup, figuring out what you're doing, implementing it, and then growing. So we've been through all of that phase ourselves since knowing you guys. And we're definitely in our growth phase now, but it's taken such a long time to learn what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we're communicating. And that comes back to being in and around that community. So when we're at Ideas Fest and speaking to so many people, and we'll go through a lot more of that today, is getting those ideas about where are we taking the business forward, what does the market want, what's the language, what's the philosophy, how does it work? And then getting introduced to, obviously, the influencers that are part of your network, which has really helped me in terms of going, there's other people who are experts. Stuff that I think naturally go, oh, that's a load of rubbish. Suddenly trying it out and going, oh, actually, this is really, really interesting. And then starting to put that into your DNA of the business as well. So
I think there's some interesting pieces that come out of that, right? So that bit between startup where you're doing what you think is right, that bit then where you, as you say, that little kind of crossover piece where you're going, right, actually some of that didn't work. And you often end up with the hangover of all the things that you tried to do. So all the systems you implemented. So I guarantee people who are going through this will have tried 3 or 4 different CRMs. They'll have tried meta ads. They'll have tried doing organic outreach. And they're still all sitting in their ecosystem.
Yes.
They haven't done to perhaps use more of a kind of gardening analogy, they haven't thinned. They haven't looked at what's really working, stripped out the things that aren't working, and then moved those forward. And people call it efficiency, right? They call it like, well, we need to be more efficient. Just need sometimes to get rid of all the clutter that is holding you in that place, because that's what started your business. It's probably not what's going to push you forward. And you talked about that you're in that growth phase now and you're learning from other people. And oftentimes I think there's a real value in learning from people who are outside your industry, and that cross-pollination. We've talked about this before, right? The cross-pollination piece where you go, I don't think that's going to work. And you go, well, there's no harm in testing.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a lot about testing, I think, today. And once you do test it and you realize what is working, it's the mechanics, not necessarily the individual piece. It's the nuts and bolts of what's working. You just need to put what you do on top of those bolts.
I always like to put it in another way, go and blow up rocket ships and you'll learn more from blowing up ship than you do actually from the good stuff that everyone teaches you the way to do it.
But no one wants to record that.
No one wants to record that. But the truth is, if you go through my journey, we've made more mistakes than anyone in our industry. Why? On purpose. We've done it absolutely on purpose, because we go, what happens if we do this? Or what happens if we do that? Or what if we change this? Or what if we... And no one's willing to take those risks in our industry, because you get to this point of going, if I do Facebook this way, or if I do TikTok, or I do email, or I do direct mail, this is the way I've been taught in how you do it.
Yeah.
Actually, with modern technology, which is evolving at, we won't talk about AI just for a split second, but it's evolving at light speed. Suddenly you can do more with it than you've ever done before, but you've got to make the mistakes to get there.
So why do you think people don't want to make mistakes?
Scared.
I mean, entrepreneurs as a general collective are more risk-taking. So I always find this interesting when you start your own business.
Yep.
You know, and I did exactly the same thing. You start your own business, and then all of a sudden you become really risk-averse. You did the really risky thing of starting the company, and then all of a sudden you're, oh shit, have I got enough cash to pay things this month? And and you start worrying about cash flow, and you start worrying about lots of things that you never had to consider before. So you go from being actually quite risk-taking in the lighter sense of the term to being quite risk-averse. And I wonder whether it takes another evolution to go past the risk aversion into that testing phase.
It's an interesting one. So entrepreneurs by default should be risk takers, right? But actually a lot aren't.
Yeah.
Like you say, so you get different types of entrepreneurs. You get your lifestyle at home entrepreneurs who wife or husband is paying the main bills and they get to do their side hustle. You get the people who just want to have a lifestyle business to earn an amount of money. So you see that in tech entrepreneurship all the time, where you've got these brilliant developers who go and build these amazing businesses, but they have a ceiling because they don't want to push it.
The micro SaaS products are going absolutely crazy at the moment.
They are.
And I think that's a really interesting innovation, touching back on the AI thing, where people with no coding experience can start to code very small little products, but in a really tight niche. And they are, they're bringing in £1,000 a month, and you sit around and go, I'm happy with that.
I'm happy. And that's okay, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If that's what your ambition is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, and then there's the other part of the entrepreneurship, which are what I call the hustlers, the scalers, the growers, the innovators, the people who want to push the boundaries. I'd like to think I'm one of them. And they've got to take chances.
Yeah.
Because if you're not taking that chance to push the boundary and failing along the way, you'll never get anywhere.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting piece, isn't there? Because if we look back in history at why are we at where we're at now, and why does the industry looks like it does now? So if we went right the way back to mass mailing, or even further back, think about either billboarding or newspaper or magazine placement, right? So that's the original kind of start to all of this. And then you'd start doing that kind of mass mail or door-to-door, and people get fed up with the same messages being placed in front of them all the time. And now we've got to the fast forward to the mass email marketing. So I'm talking about the early to mid 2000s.
Yep, I remember them well.
Where it was great. It was you would get a list as long as you possibly could, and people would just hammer the list until they could hammer it no more. We didn't have the kind of spam filters we do now. We didn't have GDPR compliance. We didn't have a load of these mechanisms now that actually make us better, I think. I mean, a lot of people think that regulation can be a bad thing. I think within our space, within this kind of the area that we work, it's a really positive thing because it means that we've got to be better. It takes some of the players off the table who actually were causing problems for all of us.
It's an interesting take. So in my head, legislation is a start, but it's certainly not where it needs to be. So we go above and beyond legislation or compliance, GDPR, PECA as an example. So back in the day, if you were selling the Evening Standard as an example, they were just standing on the street, by the Evening Standard, people would walk up to them and off they went. And then one of the guys in there, Pioneer, went, why don't we go door knocking and actually deliver the newspaper directly into the house? So suddenly door knocking started. And then from there, it went into, why don't we build directories and advertising? And then directories came into the fax machine marketing. Fax machine turned into email marketing turned into social marketing. Social marketing has turned back to direct mail now, bizarrely. So it's come full circle. But when you look at the evolution of the way outreach happens, it's always been about short form and long form mixed together. So short stories versus your proper books, your series, whatever it will be. And people have forgotten that over the years because email, you've said it yourself, back in the early days, it was so easy, right?
Oh, yeah.
You'd go and buy a list. You'd go and scrape a list. It didn't actually matter where it came from. You'd load it into your Microsoft Outlook. You wouldn't even use a email buddy system. Click a button and bang, and you just sit there and get reply after reply after reply because it was new. No one had ever received an email before. People were responding, oh my God, I can have an offer. But this was a day when it was dial-up. So for those who don't know what dial-up is when you had to plug it into your phone, it'd go bing, 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 it'd dial up, and you'd see the screen load line by line by line. And if your mum needed to pick up the phone and make a phone call, it's game over. And obviously, you've seen how the internet has evolved. But as long as the internet's evolved, so is the way you advertise on the internet. Yeah. And that's where email, thank God, where Google, Microsoft, now it's all in the cloud, have made it a lot more difficult to get in touch with the humans because what's their job? putting good quality emails in front of their customers.
And so what's really fascinating about that is back at that point, right, we had long attention spans because you needed to.
Correct.
In order for it to come through, you had to have an attention span. And I always like, and the analogies I like to use are things like mail, proper mail. It took some time to get to you. So someone had taken the time to write the letter. You were important, so you opened the letter and you read the letter properly. But that took time.
Yep.
Right. But you valued it because you understood that it took effort.
100%.
And then, as we've got to easier and easier ways of communicating, to the point where like we got WhatsApp and all these things that are instantaneous, our attention spans also dropped.
Massively so.
And so how do you then close that loop in terms of making sure that you're getting the right attention, so being put the message in front of the right person, but also once it's got there, to hold them long enough to communicate your idea, your product, your service, whatever that might be. And that combination of short and long form is really, really important because they need to understand you as a business, particularly in the B2B space.
100%.
They need to understand you as a business, but then they need to understand, well, why are you useful for them?
And even more so is you've got to also look at the generational split as well by age demographic, because if you look at best one in the world our age, we're willing to take a little bit more time, understand things, consider it, take more content, read. But actually, if you look at, and actually a true story, we were on the phone with a major agency just a couple of days ago, and they came on, and this first time in my career, I go, oh my God, they are so young. And I've never had that before, but it was like so young. And the way they communicated was very different to what I'm used to. It was very... very chilled, very relaxed. And these guys are holding 30 million, 50 million pound budgets, so not small amounts of money. But they really are switched on, really smart, really get it. But their attention span is finite. You've got a few minutes. So when we're on a meeting trying to do a discovery call, tell me a bit about your business, what's your goals and ambition, it was like one-line answers. But you also but they knew their stuff.
Yeah.
So therefore, when you look at that type of person who's now the decision makers of tomorrow, today, funny enough, how do they consume content? So when you look at email or direct mail or social or TikTok or YouTube or what's the other one? Snapchat,
Instagram,
Shorts,
Snapchat,
these are all mediums that they are consuming content in, but by design, they're all short form.
Yes.
So if you suddenly communicate to them in long form content, they're not used to that.
Nope.
And therefore they don't even engage. Whereas if you do, and you're picking on your point, you get a good series of short form contents, you pique the interest, then you've earned the right to do long form communication. And at that point, you're building out your community, you're getting engagement, people are starting to go, these guys are the real deal, let's do a bit more information. The medium never matters, and this is what's really interesting when it comes to B2B or B2C marketing. It doesn't really matter if it's a knock on the door, a telephone call, email, social. It ultimately doesn't matter. The speed is what's the most important. Can I get over what I'm trying to talk about very, very quickly with a hook that goes, yes, I'm interested? And if you can't do that in 30 seconds, you're screwed.
Well, it goes back to why were headline writers on Fleet Street so valued? Because you'd walk past that newsstand, and whoever's headline grabbed you the most. And yes, particularly in the UK, you'd have your left and your right, and you'd have people who followed, but that was mainly the broadsheets. That headline grabbing thing, clickbait, top of so this is where they go below and above the fold.
Yeah.
So to use again some more marketing kind of language, but all that means in old newspaper money was when you folded your newspaper, what was above the fold that was seen when they walked past, and what was below the fold. Any advertising above the fold was more expensive. So if you're paying for advertising, it was more expensive above the fold, and that's still true now.
You're the only person I've met who actually understands that analogy.
Oh, really? I don't know whether I'm just old or I've been around the block for too long.
Probably both. But no, it's fascinating because, again, what are you paying for? Placement.
Yeah.
And readership and eyes on your headline.
Eyeballs.
It's eyeballs. And that's why it comes down to is eyeballs and ears.
Yeah.
You want people to see or hear what you do and therefore engage on that. And that's where I find modern day marketing absolutely fascinating, because all of the technology you've now got to get in front of your recipient or the person you want to sell to, actually the hardest part now is what do I share with them versus I want to get in touch with them, because you can get in touch easy. You can get an email, a phone number, their social. That bit is the easy bit. We're a data business, right? So we know how easy it is to get data. But the art comes in how you use that data and how you use it to basically build campaigns which resonate with that recipient, because they've got challenges, they've got a job to do, they've got people hounding them to death, they're time poor. So it's how do you stand out and grab attention in the quickest way possible?
And there's a few things there to unpick. So I remember probably about 10, 12 years ago, I was randomly walking along the high street and I looked over a billboard. And because of the space like that we exist in, you're always thinking, aren't you? Thinking, well, I don't think billboards are going to be around for much longer.
How wrong are we?
Completely, right? They're still here, they're still... And then I had to think about, well, why are they? And actually, billboards are great at a number of things. One of the things is hyperlocal, because if you've got the billboard that's next to the supermarket with a big sign saying, have you thought about your weekly shop this week, you're more likely to engage.
Yep.
They're great for those types of things. Digital billboards now have created a whole different opportunity, because before you had to go and paste the thing up and it got changed every 4 or 6 weeks, whatever it was. And that really got me to thinking about, well, how placement and how knowing your audience is important, because you might not put the Waitrose billboard in a place where there won't be many Waitrose shoppers. Waitrose have got a price point and they have a place in the market. Everything's a market spread, right? So Waitrose has its place within the market, and your Sainsbury's shoppers might not be your Waitrose shoppers, who might not be your Aldi shoppers, or whatever it is.
Your ideal customer profile,
Absolutely that. So you're going to always look to where you're most likely to get the accurate eyeballs or ears in place. And when we then start to wind that out and go, okay, so how do we do it? Now the channels thing is interesting, because you say it's never easier to get data, and I agree with you. But I bet there are people listening to this going, I've got a business, I don't know how to get business-to-business contacts. Now,
call me.
Call Adam. But if you're just getting started, and I've talked to a number of small, independent, local high street businesses, and they're like, well, we're a B2B, how would you go about getting data? And I said, well, there is some really simple ways.
Yep.
You can look at, so Google has maps. You can type the type of business you want to engage with. It'll give you a list. And if you then also open a new tab and go collect data from Google Maps, you'll find a link that will be able to extract all that information really quickly, stick into a spreadsheet. There's your start.
Yep.
And that costs you very, very little, if nothing at all. And it's all about, and once you understand that you can get into that space, right? So you exist in a space where national campaigns, and I know we can talk about LBOP and the local campaigns as well, but that will still sit above some starting businesses, right? So oftentimes I like to talk about, well, understand what you do and then filtering it all the way down, because what's important then is they see the value.
Correct.
So you can start with a Hunter subscription to get low data. Yes, we're going to Hunter,
Apollo,
if you want to sponsor this, then great, that'd be amazing.
Thank you for all your new orders.
Quite an easy way of getting a small amount of data. It's painless, right? It will very, very quickly get to a point where you want to understand what that actually means, and I think that's where like guys like yourself come right into that market space. But when you're just starting out, you're like, what do I do? How do I do it?
I think when you start out, going back in the day, so I started out right in COVID, right? So we opened up first month of COVID lockdown. Everyone was like, what are you doing, Adam? Go and get a job. I was like, nope, I see a vision. But straight away, you've got to start to think as a small business. And yes, we could do marketing and whatever it will be, but we never did in the early days. What we actually did was go, okay, it's lockdown. Who's actually trading?
Yep.
Our first customer was Amazon for Business. Guess what? The biggest e-retailer delivering everything to people's homes. Brilliant. What was our second customer? AXA Health. Guess what they do? Private medical insurance. So again, when you start up, where did we find all their details? We went to their websites. Yep. We got their phone number. We picked up the phone and went, who's responsible for marketing? We got a name. We got an email address. We reached out to them. And that's what I call ABM marketing, right? So account-based marketing for those who don't know.
Yep.
And it's really about being really succinct with going, these are the businesses that I want to target. And in those very early days of starting up, it's very easy to understand who you want to target.
Yep.
Where it gets hard is when you've kind of hit those first load of customers, you've brought them on board, and then you go, who else should I target?
Next?
And that's where we come in. So you're quite right, is when you even look at our LBOT, which is for smaller SMEs, even that, if you look at a £6,000 price point, it's going to be quite high for some businesses.
Yep.
So it's that level below, which goes, how do you start a business? And actually, a lot of it's common sense, right? You go in, I'm a jewellery maker, who do I want to target? How do I go and reach out? How do I communicate? So all of that's free. But even better now, AI, Gemini, ChatGPT,
Yep.
you can go on there and go, I'm setting up a small business. I want to sell to these types of businesses, I think. What kind of messaging should I do? The problem is it spits out a load of AI-generated content, which everyone can read, everyone can see it's AI-generated, and therefore you lose that trust and credibility from day one. So it's about having the human piece alongside the AI piece to make sure that you're communicating with the right intent.
I actually bumped into someone at Ideas Fest when we were chatting, and they do bin bags.
Oh, there you go.
And they do Amazon, eBay, and they do a multi-million-pound business. Yeah. Amazing guy. Really fascinating to talk to. But those, I think what you start with is a lot of hustle and a lot of grind, because you don't know what you don't know. So you're starting to build those lists. And I remember doing that, the first business, and going through and having spreadsheets. I mean, God, spreadsheets with contact details on. And that first bit of traction is really important.
Yep.
I also think that when it's so easy to start things and it's so easy to get leads, you can become a little bit complacent. And it's actually really useful to do the hard stuff first.
Yes.
You understand it better. You probably will be able to have intelligent conversations with a company like yours when you've already done a little bit yourself.
Absolutely.
And actually, you can get quite far doing that. So you can set up a little local business, and you see things all the time, don't you? And I always find it fascinating just because of the very nature of what we do. But I saw one that was really interesting was a bike cleaning service. So it was a mobile bike cleaner. So what you did, it was on a trailer. You drive it round to like the local bike park, and you could put your mountain bike in. It was like a car wash, but for bikes. It would automatically wash the bike and put it out, right? And I'm thinking, God, you could Facebook Marketplace. You'd absolutely clean up with something like that, and you could very easily contact every bike trail, every bike shop locally, and go, hey, can I come down on a Monday and do everyone who comes in?
100%.
And that would be a really easy place to start. And what I always then find fascinating is people get a hiccup on the next bit. We're going, well, okay, so I'm doing all the bikes locally. What do I do next?
Yes.
And that's where I think it's really fascinating when we're looking at mass data. We're looking at, okay, what's the message going to be on a big scale? How am I going to scale that up? Is it going to be profitable? Really important question. Is there enough leads? Which I think people go, well, there can't be enough people. To your answer would be, there's always enough people. You just got to get in front of them regularly enough with the right message so that it might not be today, but it could be a year down the line.
So let's talk about government. So once upon a time, we were invited to a webinar to talk about data brokers and the state of data in the industry. And it sounded amazing, right? So got invited down, we jumped on the call. There was a lot of data brokers on there. And uniformly, every single one of them turned around and went, you're talking to the wrong people. And they went, what do you mean? I said, we're the people who sell the data. We're not the people who create the data.
Yeah.
And what the challenge is with governments at that point was they don't really understand how the data architecture in the UK works. So we're not just talking about marketing data, we're talking about credit data and financial data and all of this jazz. And they were given examples of where data had been used in a negative way. Yeah. So sending people to download an app and using that app to take money out of bank accounts and stuff. So their safeguarding was actually beautiful to watch because they're trying to understand what's going wrong with data.
Yeah.
However, the practice of how to implement and put it into place, they really don't understand how it's being created in the UK. So I fed back to them after the call. I said, listen, these are the companies you actually want to talk to because we're the ones who create the data. To this date, we haven't heard from them. Does that surprise me? Not really.
And I think that's some of the challenges within the industry, right? And I think that's wider, it's in business more generally, that often regulation comes with a big hammer.
Yes.
And then it kind of gets rowed back.
It does. But sometimes it doesn't go far enough. So I worked in the data industry when GDPR and Pecker's always been around, but GDPR was coming into force, and the amount of confusion which was going on around it, what can I do, what can't I do, even to this day today.
Communication is terrible.
People still don't understand what they can and can't do. So a lot of our time, funny enough, is sat down with DPOs in their businesses.
Right, what's DPO?
Data Protection Officer.
Right, thank you very much.
I'm going to get better at this. No more acronyms. But for data protection officers, what's their job? To understand data flows within organisations, right?
But if you're a one-man band, you are the DPO.
Correct. Every business in the UK has a DPO.
And if you don't know who it is, it's probably you.
Correct. And if you don't know who it is, you probably need to go and sign up on the ICO register and mark yourself down as the DPO. And also have a data strategy of where you hold data. Probably in a CRM system. Pipedrive's good. So's HubSpot. So's your mates. There's loads.
there's loads, right? And I mean, we could talk a lot about, it's every small business's problem is you say, where's your data held? Spreadsheet. Is it password protected? Excel.
Nope.
Nope.
Is it on a computer which no one can get access to?
Nope. So, loads of those problems happen because when you first start, you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
And so you end up with the spreadsheets and you end up thinking, right, okay. And GDPR is a great example of this because, people go, I can't contact them. Oh, no, you have legitimate interest. That's fine. You can't. If they say, please do not contact me again, then you've got to be mindful of what you do with that data and how you dispose of it and how you close that off. But the thing of, and it works both ways, right? So when someone says you can't contact me because of GDPR, and then you push back and go, well, no, it's a legitimate business interest. It's business to business. It's B2B, not B2C. Slight difference.
And then you go, I'm reporting you to the ICO.
And then I get reported to the ICO. Yeah, been down that track a few times.
Yep.
And people don't understand what legitimate interest is. Correct. So let's talk about that because I think it's useful for people to understand if they're going to market to other companies, other businesses, what is legitimate interest?
Well, let's go one stage back in terms of data. So we talked about where you can find data, which is easy peasy in that respect. But where do companies like mine come in? So we're a worldwide data house. We hold 100 million business records all the way from UK businesses, USA, Canada, Ireland, etc. And what do? We work with customers to power their campaigns.
So one step back, just slightly. So when we say 100 million businesses, so this is important, what data for that business would you typically hold?
As a minimum, company name, address, as a bare minimum. So usually we layer on top of that phone numbers, emails, social details, and then we'll even go into persona type information. So number of cars, vans, trucks that a business might operate, technology on their website, how long they've been trading, turnover, number of employees. I think overall we've got about 500 different fields on a business that we can go and interrogate. And the word is interrogate. So legitimate interest is great. But what does legitimate interest actually mean? Well, it means that business has probably got a legitimate interest in possibly buying your products because they're valuable to their organisation. Again, what does that really mean? Because it sounds great in practice. Well, it means that you should only really be talking to the people who you should be selling to.
Yep.
The challenge, if you look at most databases, in most CRM systems, I guarantee 30 to 50% of your data is irrelevant. And if you look at GDPR rulings, it says you can't hold data for longer than necessary or for a reasonable amount of time. What does that mean?
Well, it's one of those catch-alls, isn't it?
Because if I'm selling cars and it's a 3-year cycle, I'll hold your data for 3 years.
Yep.
No? Or 5 years or 6 years to go through two cycles. Yeah. Or if I sell flowers, is it a week?
Yep.
Because it's Valentine's Day, it's been a week, right? I can't hold that information anymore. So the framework,
on the flip side, it's indefinite because there can be multiple times that you might want to buy, and that's. But I think that's really, it's one of those things in marketing and particularly in looking at data that small businesses will get their heads knocked around with. Yeah. They go, well, it's GDPR compliance. And well, yes, but are you contacting them genuinely for something that could be of help to them?
Correct.
And if the answer to that question is yes, you are on pretty solid ground. As long as you're not hammering them, and if they then ask to be removed, you've done so in a timely manner, you will not fall foul.
Correct.
historically and to this date, email, particularly email, outperforms every other medium pound for pound.
Correct.
And people just, I want to say that like really clearly, email outperforms every other medium pound for pound. And people still don't use it enough.
And why do you think that is?
Psychologically, it is still seen as, it's in your inbox, it's personal. It's coming to you directly. So it's gone via the you haven't had to go and find it. It's come right to you.
Yeah.
It feels like something that is still seen as an important communication tool because we use it in other ways. So it's not like a leaflet that is used a one-way directional transaction. It's seen as this is something between you and I. So I think that's why it probably performs best.
Yep.
It also allows a space to be really clear on intention. You can communicate with a lot of intention in the text. So you can be specific, you can tell them why, you can tell them how, you can tell them when, it's really clear.
Yeah.
And you've got time.
So I've got a different controversial take on email.
Go on.
I think it's too cheap. Your barrier to entry is so low that people forget the value of what email actually is. And all the things you've just said, so it's not, for me, it's not email marketing, it's direct to inbox.
Okay.
I'm getting a set of eyes with my perfect ICP who's looking at my email, and I can do it for 2p.
Yeah.
Does that sound right? Unfortunately, it's the market that we live in.
Which side of the...
But if you're imagining, it makes those companies which go, I can just go and buy a data list of 1 million businesses and hammer the shit out of it, because actually the cost of doing it is so low.
Yeah. Do you remember, I don't know if you've seen it, so anyway, Chris Rock fan?
Yes.
Right. So have you seen the sketch Chris Rock does about gun control?
Yes.
Right. So for anyone who hasn't seen that sketch, go and watch it. It's awesome. But what he basically says is that why do we make bullets really expensive? So instead of like worrying about how the cost of the gun is, if you made bullets really, really expensive, then you wouldn't get any you wouldn't get any collateral damage because you'd make sure that bullet landed. And it is so funny because he said, I would shoot you, but I haven't got the money.
Yes.
So it gives you that space to kind of move away from and really be intentional about what you're going to do.
Exactly that. Because if you take email 2, 3, 4p, whatever it will be, you don't have to think a lot about it. It's 3 or 4p.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to go and do a direct mail piece for £1.50,
absolutely.
You're suddenly thinking about it, and suddenly you're going to send it to 10,000 people.
Yeah.
I can't do the maths, but let's call it 15 grand.
Yeah.
Suddenly, that's 15 grand to spend. You need to get an ROI off it.
Yep.
So therefore, you're going to look at the contents. You're going to look at the strategy. You're going to look at the addresses you're sending it to. You're going to look at every iota of that campaign and make it perfect. Versus email, where you go, we just load it into the system and blast it out because it's cheap, it's easy, it's quick, and therefore there's a ongoing evidence-based piece for me where I go, email is taken for granted to a certain extent, and watching Microsoft and Google put all their new rules in place, suddenly people are now thinking about email more for the first time in history. That means that email it can become great. So I say, let's make email great again.
Yeah.
Mega. But there you go. You know where that context goes. So I had to pull that one out from the marketing because I was like, no, that's going to be too controversial. But the whole point is, if you imagine email up to today being email 1.0, and then now tomorrow being email 2.0, well, the world's changed. Your content strategy, who you're sending it to, what frequency, how you're communicating, suddenly everything's changed. That means for someone like us who really give a crap about the recipients on the other end, it's a game changer for us because suddenly our creative teams are more important than ever before, whereas the copy was always, don't worry about the copy, it doesn't really matter. Suddenly the creative team are leading the charge. What are we communicating out this month? What are we doing? The frequency changes because Google and Microsoft don't want you hammering an email every single day. Yep. So what's the right frequency? One a month, unless you engage and you can do a follow-up.
Yeah.
But what does that really mean in terms of the journey for the customer? Because people forget at the end of an email address, adam@go-data.com, Adam Herbert's actually reading your email.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to understand is who you are, what your product is, how it's relevant to my organisation, and how do I get in touch with you?
Yeah.
In an ideal world, send me to your website, because on your website, it's the retail shop, using that analogy from earlier. I can go and have a browse around, I can have a look around, And if I show all the right buying behaviours, like if I'm in a clothes shop and I pick up a few pairs of jeans and shirts and whatever it will be, and then I put them down and walk out the shop, well, I don't want to lose that buyer, so I might chase that person. I go, hey, is there anything I can do to help you? And it's moving back into the human touch. So the medium is still digital, but your communication is human.
Yeah.
And that's what's been missing with email marketing. So yes, it's your best bang for your buck, but because it's been so easy.
We were talking earlier about obviously email, the difference between then and now, right? And you used to be able to get away with a lot back then. So we talked about email blasting, which it was the thing. Everyone was like, well, you just got a list and you just do it. And we've talked about obviously legislation and better practices that have come in place. And also, I'd imagine we've matured. The industry's matured.
Speak for yourself. I've definitely not matured.
So thinking about that now, what's the difference between then and now? What do we do now to really connect in a way with our audiences?
So let's go back in time and tell you how easy it really was back in the day. So back in the day, you can go and buy a list, scrape a list, get a list, whatever it will be. And 90% of that data could be wrong.
Yep.
So when you blast it out, you get bounce rates left, right, and centre, but it didn't matter. There was no consequence to that. You could then send the same message out every single day.
Yeah.
And it would get delivered.
Yep.
No consequence.
Nope.
You could do HTMLs, you could do text-only emails, you could do whatever you wanted to do, right? And the most famous campaign of that is Nintendo. So Nintendo back in the day, they were launching the new Zelda game. And they did this sneak preview over 30 days where one day we've got a big game coming. And the second, it was actually a really good campaign, but you couldn't do that campaign now.
No.
Versus now, if I send a campaign with a load of bounced emails, I'm going to get rejected. I'm going to be blacklisted. If I send emails with poor content, I'm going to get blacklisted. It's not going to get delivered. If I'm going to send emails every single day, they won't even get into the inbox. They won't even go through the spam vaults anymore.
Yeah.
So I've really grown up, right? Because suddenly you're going to work through a number of parameters to get good emails into your inbox. Actually, let's talk about your campaign, because I think your campaign is the most resonant. Where we wanted to get really focused on is what are we trying to add value to your recipients. So again, in your world, the whole market could be a potential.
If they've got a business, whether it's a tabletop startup up to a big corporate, they would be in our ecosystem, or could be.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, those ginormous ones, we probably want to remove them out and treat differently. But if you look at that one-man band up to, call it 50 employees being the vast majority of business in the UK, you can actually go and do something for all of them. So the idea was going, well, you've got the Startup Awards. Well, they're a different demographic to everyone else because guess what? You've got a 5-year hit. Is it 5 years or 3 years? Apologies, I always forget.
That's fine.
I promise you, we've done the segmentation in the background and it is 3 years. So again, we built out that segmentation. But the next phase was the Entrepreneur Year Awards. Now, funny enough, the startups could actually go into that as well, but we've purposely removed them from it because they've got their own dedicated campaign, which is for the Startup Awards. And don't get me wrong, after they go after 3 years, they're going to get added into that campaign.
Into that bucket,
Absolutely. And then the next phase was, what's the messaging about? So we were starting off with Ideas Fest, and actually it's not our favourite campaign. So the first campaign was, we want to go and sell some tickets. Now, funny enough, that's dead against what we do.
Yeah, no, I know. I remember the conversation.
You're like, well, can you do something else? And you're like, well, no, that's our next event. It was, oh, God's sake, how do we do this? And then we ended up building a very nice campaign, which was just talking about Glastonbury for Business, because that's how it's being called. And quite correctly, I've been there now and I can agree and attest to that. But it was very, very gentle. And here's a link. Don't feel unbound to buy. We just want to tell you what it is, what we do in this event, how it works, where it is, etc. And the end result was around 130 grand worth of sales in a very short period of time. Whereas now, what are we doing? So we had the Entrepreneur Year Awards last month.
Yep.
Funny enough, what was our email about? We weren't asking people to sign up. We weren't asking people to do anything. It was just, hey, we're celebrating the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards this month. Thought we'd let you know. We'd let you know who's won it previously. And when it opens, we believe you could be part of it.
Yep.
Off we go.
And just to add, again, layering in the people that you learn from. So Dan Priestley, again, two name drops for Dan.
He's going to get another one in a minute.
He's probably going to get another one. He does this great thing around wait lists.
Yes.
So getting people onto lists so then you can talk to them gently and really kind of talk them through the process. And that's been really valuable for us to be able to do that. And when we start to, why is it important? Why is it important that businesses are recognised? Why is it important that they're celebrated and supported? And oftentimes it's not the validation of the award, right?
No.
But when you surround yourself and you meet people who are just like you, one of my phrases, and I'll get it into this podcast, which is great. They say it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
It takes a community to raise a business.
You say that a lot.
I do say that a lot.
But it's also really
true. Really true.
It's really, really true.
And what we're doing is creating community spaces. They just happen to be a celebration at the same time. And the thing is, with our award programs, we do it in a way that is, everything is led by our judges. So we have 150 minimum.
Don't like your judges.
150 minimum. And the fact that we're having this conversation, you have not won one, right? So that, be it full transparency.
Hold on. I've won the startup awards.
Oh yes, you have won the startup
awards. I haven't won the ones I wanted.
And that's full transparency, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's not about our independent judges are that independent. We don't do it because we want to sell sponsorship. We don't do it because it's an easy way of making a buck. No. We do it because we want to celebrate the people who are in the ecosystem. And whether that be through shortlisting, whether that be through actually winning the award, and the competition is super high.
Oh, it is. I lost to Gaia Learning, the lady from that, and their business is brilliant. And what they're doing to help young kids and people who are disruptive, etc., and building programs and through technology. It's the first time I've gone, yeah.
That's what you said to me on the phone.
I kind of went, yeah, I can get over this one. Because I like their business. And we've connected since, and we talk on LinkedIn and so on and so forth. There's no business for us to do together because they're in a different space to what we do. But it's amazing to meet people.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we do. So we champion those communities. And then I remember saying to Adam, I said, look, I've got an opportunity. I think you need to come to Ideas Fest.
You did. Give me a bill as well.
I did give you a bill. Of course I gave you a bill. But I think the first conversation was, I said to you, you have to come.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, because you said, well, I've not seen it. I don't really know what it looks like. I said, trust me, I will. The space will be fantastic, and it is exactly where you need to be.
I haven't told you this before. I despise events. Have I actually told you this?
You did mention it, yeah.
Yeah.
And Dom then told me he hates being in.
I hate them. I hate going to them. Most of them, there's no value. They're a waste of time. And don't get me wrong, it's not for everybody. I've not been to every single one. But the ones I've been to have never really added value. And I trusted you when you went, no, Adam, you've got to be part of this. It's going to be amazing. And I just went, okay, let's give it a go. And you were right. And you were also right on the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. Amazing. And you were right on all the other stuff as well. So that ability to connect with the community or maybe a better way of putting it is people are in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
Because we're all going through the same hardships. We're all going through the same pain. We're all going through the same learnings. And by coming together as a community, you can get over that quickly. But that leads into my email campaign.
Go on.
Now, imagine if we started hammering those people every single day.
Oh, I know.
What would the reputation of all your events be? Would they be like, what a waste of time, spammers, just want money, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Whereas by having frequency rules where we'll only email once a month and it's got to be informational and it's got to be educational and it's got to be relevant to those people, it only enhances your brand because a lot of people forget when they work with me. I take their brands really seriously. So you could be the biggest brand, Amoda, AXA, EDF, E.ON, whatever it will be, or you could be the lowest brand. Both of them are equally as important to me because I'm being trusted with those people to go and reach out to people cold.
On your behalf.
On their behalf, make sure the content we put in front of people is relevant and educational and put people on a buying journey which makes sense to them. And we take that responsibility massively seriously because taking the fun and the jokes out of the equation, one bad email can tank a whole brand. Look at Jaguar.
Yes, absolutely.
Imagine if we were responsible for that.
And there's really nice learning things around that. So one is that responsibility you have for people's data, right?
Yes.
So whoever you are, you have a responsibility.
Yeah.
And I like, whatever the brand is, however you're reaching out to people is really important.
Yes.
And the thing that we often forget, I think, is because we talk about how we want to reach all the businesses because I know genuinely that our team, there is some help that we can provide, whether that is through validation, whether that's through in our community, linking people up. We do it regularly.
You've connected us with people,
and that's a phone call. That's not like a contrived thing. That's like, oh, actually, I know that you'd really be really, really helpful if you spoke to Adam.
Yes. And
so that's what we do really, really well. And when we bring people through that trust cycle of, okay, you've had that email, you've then entered that award, you've seen our process and our robust, validated process, you've come to the event, you've realised that actually you're sat at a table with people who are just like you, maybe they're a little bit further, maybe they're a little bit behind you in the journey, but they're just like you. When I then pick the phone up and go, hey, look, we've been chatting, you've told me that you want to reach out to more local people, so we mentioned your LBOP earlier. Tell us what LBOP is.
Stands for the Local Business Outreach Program.
There we go.
It rolls off the tongue.
It absolutely does. I know that Adam's doing some great work. If you're looking just hyper-local, go and have a chat to him.
Yeah.
And that's the know, like, trust bit that you build through that journey.
And to a certain extent, it's why we built the LBOP, actually. So what is it? So we write all the creatives for our customers. So we know what the journey is, we know what we should write, and we go and build them all out. We work to a 15-mile radius of your office, maximum. We won't go further unless you're really, really, really rural, and then there's an argument that people will travel further. But also, if you're in the middle of London, actually 15-mile radius is huge.
Yeah.
Versus if you're in the middle of Wales, it's not actually a long time. So we basically restrict the data to 15-mile radius. And again, similar to our campaigns, 1 email a month, good quality content, drive them to give a reply. And that's been revolutionary for small SMEs because suddenly they've got the ability to go and use us, who are doing internationally this level of campaigns, but suddenly they're able to do it at a local level. But any business can now use a local business outreach program as long as you've got 2 things. 1, you're B2B, and 2, you work in a local area. And it works incredibly well. So
this is all happening. So last August, just before Ideas Fest, because I remember the conversations we were having, and that was like, right, come and that's what we'll kind of celebrate, and that's what the thing will be. And it was this year, Ideas Fest was wet.
It was very wet.
But even with that, the amount of people, so we had over 4,000 people through the gates.
And I saw them.
You saw them. I think the beauty of being in that environment is it's the little conversations you have that then you follow up on, right? It is creating that space to go, oh, actually, and okay, it's great because there's intros that can happen because I know the people, or, I can say, I know, let's go and have a chat to these guys because I think they'll be really useful.
Yeah.
But it's that open space where there's no agenda. No. People are just there to help each other out.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of it. Who did you see there that you really wanted to kind of see, catch up with, chat to, hear what they had to say on something?
You're going to find this quite interesting. So I never knew about Daniel Priestley until Ideas Fest. It had never been on my radar. I'd never watched any of his videos. I'd never come across him. And I'd watched one of his talks or something. And I went, I like this guy. And I didn't know why I liked him. But then I came home afterwards and I absorbed his YouTube channels. And I went, he's in a very similar space to us, and he's trying to do very similar things to us, but in a very different direction. And I found that fascinating, that we'd kind of come to a lot of the same conclusions, but I'd attacked it from a very different way to the way he'd attacked it. And obviously he's incredibly successful as well off the back of what he does, but I didn't have a clue who he was.
And so that's I think it's wonderful, isn't it, when you go, I don't know who you are, but you meet someone who then goes on to inspire, to give you ideas. That's the thing, isn't it? It's the ideas bit, right?
Absolutely.
And we talk about waitlists. We talk about using scorecards. So scorecards are essentially quizzes. Yeah. Little quiz funnels that you can use. They've been really successful for us. I know you've implemented them in the business.
We have. Not yours, Daniel. Sorry, we've built our own.
Yeah. It's that shared, almost like osmotic information that goes left and right. That you go, that was really great.
Yeah.
And what we don't do very well, I think, is particularly when you run a business, you're often head down in your business.
Oh, God, aren't you just?
And it takes a will of effort to kind of lift your head up and then have those conversations.
Yeah.
And in a space that you don't feel like you're having to make decisions and it's not a transactional thing. Because you spend a lot of time in that, don't you? Like you're either right down in the business or you're having conversations which are sales, marketing, finance, HR. They're all transactional conversations. Yes. It's nice to take space. And however you do it, I don't really care. I think as a piece of advice to business owners, find some space in your calendar each year to go and find your own bit of calm and your own bit of space. Find your tribe. I talk about a lot, finding your tribe, but with Ideas Fest or anything like that where you can just decompress, for me it's always about bringing people together, and that's the key thing. And what I've really enjoyed about our relationship is that we do pick up the phone to each other randomly and just go, what how are things going? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about an idea?
We chatted about TikTok not long ago.
We talked about TikTok not long ago,
because you'd mentioned that yours are actually quite good. I said, mate, yours haven't been updated for 5 years. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. So I had one of my videos had 108,000 views.
Explain what it was for, though.
So
context is everything.
Context is everything. So, and from a marketing point of view, it's interesting, right?
It's fascinating.
So I renovated a house completely, so back to brick. And one of the things that's really hard to do when you get to the first cycle is we had recessed lighting, so the spotlights up, downlighters. Getting that light out of the fitting is really difficult. And I have two boys, and when they were little, they like their bow and arrows. And I just had this one moment of like clarity where I went, that would be a really useful tool. So I took the arrow, and then you suction cupped it onto the bulb, and you could pop the bulb out. And I thought I'd just do this TikTok video on it because I thought it was quite interesting. 108,000 views later. And then I talked about to you today was, well, wouldn't it be interesting if there was a whole channel where you use children's toys to solve common everyday problems?
So you're going to do it now?
I'm going to do some videos. I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. Who knows? But I think what I find interesting and fascinating is that when you open your brain to that entrepreneurial idealism, in whether that's like within a business or whether that's your own business, you see potential everywhere.
You do,
and that's a really cool thing.
It's a problem.
It is.
It is a problem
unless you channel it. But seeing opportunities with other people, I think is lovely. You see opportunities for other people.
Yeah. And that's where I've transitioned to, really, is I've gone from, oh my God, there's a million ideas, I could go and do them all, to going, I want to be an expert in what I do, first and foremost, which is outreach. But then I meet amazing people. So I was lucky enough to invest into a platform called Rupert early this year, which does social media, comment management. But I didn't really invest in the platform per se. It was James Urquhart, because I could see him as the upstart. He's trying to essentially create a new industry, because comment management isn't a thing, right? And interestingly, at Ideas Fest, we gave out scrolls or whatever it would be to top influencers. So as you know, you had Maya Master there, Daniel Priestley was there, Grace Andrews. But these are all super influencers with loads and loads of comments, but they ignore their comments. But that's pretty horrendous, right? Because this is your fan base. These are the people who are interacting with you, etc. So I invested into that business. That started to take off really well as people start to understand the power of management of those comments. But off the back of it, guess what we've had to do? I can't be a hypocrite, right? I have to reply to every single comment. Yeah. And when I say we, I mean Chris, because he does most of them, but he gets annoyed when I jump in and start taking over. But well, there you go. But it's stuff like that, because as we transition, and it's my idea for Ideas Fest next year, we won't announce that one today, but my journey now is going, how do I take those next generation of entrepreneurs and try and support them in their business? Because not just in marketing outreach, but in basic business principles, software you might need, mindset, reminder of staying on your path, not getting distracted onto other paths. And that's where I want to get to now, because I'm running my race. My race is doing really well. It's turned into a marathon now, but it's now rinse and repeat. So now it becomes, where do I go next? It's 2026.
It is 2026.
The year of B2B.
The year of B2B.
It has to be. Every year is the year of B2B, right? But if you were to give some advice to a business starting up, their focus is on the B2B arena, reaching out to organisations, working with organisations in B2B, what kind of advice would you give them?
If we're talking an absolute brand new startup,
Brand new startup. We'll do a play game. We'll do a startup.
Okay.
We'll do a company which is about to go into their growth phase,
Yeah.
and we'll do the corporate.
okay, so startup, you want to keep your costs as low as possible.
Yep.
Because that's what kills most businesses is cash flow. So you're going to be doing a lot of work yourself.
So cash flow is king.
Cash flow is king. So I would leverage the platforms and technology that you can get hold of now. So first things first, understand who your ICP is as clearly as possible. Draw it on a sheet of paper. Figure out exactly who you serve, and that's that anti-ego thing. Who are you serving? Once you've got that, then find and use the tools. Hunter, there's lots of other tools out there. Find at least 100 of the companies that you can reach out to for your service, and then put your creative together, thinking about that ICP. Don't think too long. Get it out because you're going to test and iterate. Some of those are going to land. If you send out 100, even if you get one person to reply, because people always get really disenfranchised. They go, well, I've sent out 100 emails. And you got one reply. That's really good. That's 1%. That's you use that.
Great in email marketing metrics, 1%.
1%, you'd be like all over, right?
Yep.
So don't get disheartened. So that's a thing. And then once you've got that working, slowly, do not deviate until you've got 10 paying clients. Do not deviate from just doing the thing that costs you less money, but more effort.
Yep.
Moving on to the scale up.
So now I've done all of that, smashed it
Yeah.
out of the park. I now want to go into my growth phase.
So now you're at a point where you can't do that because you're too busy actually delivering the thing that you do.
Yep.
So all of a sudden that dies off, then your clients die off, and then you're back to square one, and that's what happens.
Correct.
So that is true.
Been there, done it, worn the
It's
t-shirt.
true, right? So this is the point where you then have to make sure your systems are tight. So making sure you've got good CRM, making sure that you've started to build some automations. So things that are going to take the admin heavy stuff off the table. Depending on your turnover and your revenue, start to look at what you guys do. If it fits, great. Or find a piece that you can outsource to really start to build up and leverage your time. Your time needs to be on two things. Delivering an amazing service, because then that's your feedback, your social proof, all the other stuff. And starting to become the person to go and speak to.
Yep.
Do this stuff. That's your second piece, so that's your scale up. Corporate, if I was in that corporate position now, I would be seriously looking at how email 2.0, what's that going to mean for our business? If you're highly reliant on email marketing, I'd be focusing my time on going, what does the new legislation coming down the line look like? How can we get ahead of it? How can we make sure that we are doing things at the very, very top level? Because that is going to be a differentiator.
I think that's solid advice.
Thanks.
Well done.
Would there anything you'd do differently?
I think if you're a startup, I think the first advice I'd give anybody is just start up.
Yeah. yeah.
I think in today's, God, I'm going to sound like ChatGPT now, but in today's modern age,
Yeah.
you've got a mobile phone there with more processing power than what sent people to the moon, right?
Yeah.
So getting on there, doing your research. I like the ICP advice. That makes a lot of sense to me because it's the fabric of my DNA, as you well know. But picking 100 prospects, reaching out to them, but also at the same time doing a bit of organic. So there's a lot of free channels there.
Yeah.
So your LinkedIn is free of charge. You can set up a business page straight away and you can start to market it. Also, personal brands are going to become bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on. And I think you do have a limited window to set up a personal brand as AI personas become bigger and bigger. Yeah. I think having an acid test within a 3-month period of understanding where you are and what's going on is a big thing. Having reflection, having sheets of paper, Excel's a good way to do it, and understanding your numbers and where you are. I don't think there's a need in that startup phase to invest in complex systems.
No, keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid. Don't hire.
No.
Don't hire at all. Get it right first. Map out your processes, map out your products, get it right. Once you've got those first customers and you're going into growth phase, then you can go into external systems, so CRM systems.
Because they will add up really quickly.
They do, and it's scary. So if you look at, we use Pipedrive as a business.
Yep.
I know it was for me, it was 20 quid, 9 quid, something like that a month. I now pay about $5,500 a month on Pipedrive. So it can scale really, really quickly as you grow your business. But again, a CRM trains a lot of your brain. You can build automations. You can have a depository of information. You can have next actions. You can have call flows. You can have your billing even out of it. You can have your DocuSigns, so on and so forth. So that can be a fabric of your business, especially in B2B. It's very relevant for B2B CRM systems. The other bit of advice I give is don't worry about spending money and not seeing a return.
That's a hard one, right?
It's the hardest one.
Yeah.
It's the hardest one because as a business, let's go back to what an entrepreneur is as a risk taker.
Yep.
If you stop taking risks, you're not an entrepreneur anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because every day is a risk. The easiest thing to do is close down your business and go and get paid employment, right? But you've got to be, I'm going to throw some money at marketing. I'm going to go throw some money at a zero piece of software. I'm going to go and run money at Pipedrive. I'm going to go and do a billboard advertisement. Everything's a risk, but be willing to go, I've got $5,000, $2,000, 500 quid, a tenner, whatever that money is, be prepared to lose it.
And that comes down to knowing your numbers, right? So if you know what that number looks like, then you can be intentional about how you spend it.
Correct.
So I think particularly marketing is the one that always comes up because people think, right, I've got to spend money on marketing.
And they do it on the cheap.
And they do it on the cheap. And they also will not test.
No.
So actually spread that bit of marketing cost, test a few things, because that will then inform where you then want to spend the rest of your marketing money. Can I say thank you for inviting me on the podcast?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. You can say thank you, but thank you for coming. You've travelled a long way, so I really do appreciate it.
No, it's been great, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can achieve in 2026.
In a few months, will you come back?
Absolutely.
Done.
Deal.